This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I are back with another football preview. This week we're going to be discussing the SEC. We're going to be talking about Alabama, LSU, Tennessee. We're going to be talking about Georgia, and can anyone topple Texas? And then we're also going to be talking about the AFC West. Is it Denver's division? Is it LA's division? Or will the Chiefs once again dominate the division? All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to an episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben. That's Josh. And it's a little different background today. I got a lot of baskets behind me. I got a lot of baskets.
The one with a different background today.
I do. Yeah, a lot of baskets today. I'm actually this might have, if you picked up on some of the way I was talking over the last few weeks, you could have picked up on that I was not going to be in Hungary for a little bit, but not, I wasn't very obvious. But Rebecca and we have come back to visit for 3 weeks in Ohio. So I'm here in the same time zone as Josh, which makes recording these things so much more nice. And I feel lively. I feel alive. I feel like I'm able to have the conversations. But no, that's what's happening with Ben. And Josh has known about this, so he's been all mum on the word there for a while.
Yeah. It's like you said before, though, you're still kind of mentally in hungry time. So even
I
though it's
am.
only quarter after 4 right now, it still feels a little after 10, and you still got a half a day to live still.
Well, no, it's like what you said. It's like you said, it was like you're gonna get used to it. By the time I get used to it,
by the time you finally get the hang of it, you're gonna go back. Yeah, it was the way that my vacation was last year. I lived on day shift, and I finally got my sleep all acquainted for that right when I got to go back to work.
Yeah, it doesn't go well.
Yeah, flip it around again. Yeah.
But one thing that we just talked about a little bit before we got on the air is we were talking about how you got a James Wood rookie card, right? And I was talking about how I just came back and like the new Chrome dropped, and I was like, you know what? I saw these ball cards upstairs that my mom was like, you gotta go through, and I was like, maybe I should just go buy some packs. So of course I spent way more money than I should have on a baseball card pack. Which, by the way, when I was a kid, they were like $6. Now they're like $50 a pack.
It depends on which one you go. Like if you get the Panini Prisms, those are usually higher end. The upper deck and top series 1 and 2s are like your basics.
Yeah. So obviously like I probably pay more, but I was like, you know what? It's fun for I did get a Guardian.
It is fun.
I did get a Guardian. So I just think it's fun. I don't know about you, Josh. I feel like it's starting to come back around. Because I feel like when we were kids, it was a big thing. Then it's kind of faded for the last 10 years. And then now it's really picking up again. I feel like the whole baseball trading cards. And one of my buddies in Hungary said all of his buddies back in the States, they're like all like, they go out and buy these cards and then they try to see how much they can make for them. Like it is a gamble a lot because you pay a lot of money. And then like I even saw like the new Chromes that just dropped. If you get a hobby box, it's like $600. So like you can get a $600 box and then you might get $100 worth of cards out of it, right? So that's why I'm very cautious. Like I'm like, okay, maybe this is all I get for a while I'm here because I'll just keep buying it. It just doesn't always work out. I mean, maybe get a $6 pack here and there, but So your thoughts there, Josh? On
I definitely think the creation of apps like Whatnot has really brought the trading card hobby back. It was something that I was involved in a lot too, and then just. I guess during that dead period, I would buy like a single card every now and then.
Yeah.
But I have in the last year gotten a couple boxes that I've ripped open, some Top Sound Genter, some Stadium Club Chromes and stuff like that. Have found some nice rookies in there. But yeah, the other day I went up and grabbed a James Wood. There's actually 2 trading card stores in our area, and some of them.
Yeah, there's one near us.
Yeah,
one just opened up, I guess, and that's where we went yesterday. Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, he'll do trades. He'll sell some singles, but he's also got a lot of the nice boxes and packs, and sometimes it is fun. It's a really nice adrenaline rush opening up a pack.
It is.
And being it's okay, what's going to be in here?
Well, it's funny because I was talking with my dad, and my dad was like, "Oh, these are crap cards," and I'm like, "Dad, it's because my dad, he's the one that likes to go to these places and like buy the actual good card." But like for me, that's not as fun because I feel like I didn't really earn it, like I didn't open it myself. I feel like I didn't.
Plus, if you do end up getting one of those like really good rookies, like you're probably going to be able to make more money than what you spent on the pack.
Exactly. So like I got a Paul Skeens like Chrome, and like those obviously are not going to be like as expensive or like get money rewarded, but like I still have a Joe Morgan used bat card upstairs. Like those things I should just keep on to, and you never know when these things will be at least worth something. You never know. But Anyways, that's just the new news that's going on. And also Hulk Hogan passed away today as we're recording this, which
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't a big wrestling fan growing up, but I mean, he's just a legend in the world of
The month of July, dude,
dude,
like
it's been all it's been
Ozzy Osbourne just a few days ago and John MacArthur,
the
the
and
super famous
yes,
pastor.
and Theo from the Cosby Show, the actor that played Theo from the
Yeah.
Cosby Show, my childhood, like
It's
it's
been a
been a
lot of
rough
big names
month.
a lot of big names to leave us in July.
Yeah, that is true. But today is continues our football previews, and I think this is going to be an interesting one, Josh, because like you said before the show started, I think both of these divisions, I guess you could call it, one's a conference, one's a division, is kind of like a weird open aired, but maybe not necessarily. It depends on how you look at it. Kind of football.
Yeah. Yes, so far we've done the ACC and the Big 12 in college, and we think that there's a clear-cut favorite in each of those with a solid, maybe supporting
Yeah,
cast of two or three teams below them that can maybe contend for that second spot. In the football divisions we've done, the AFC East and the AFC South also kind of are top heavy in that case. The Bills and the Texans were like are far and away better than everybody here, and that's
yeah,
basically a crapshoot for second. But today we're talking the SEC and the AFC West.
yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, at least in the AFC West, there's three teams that can maybe
There's
win that
three.
division
Yeah, there's
this
three.
year. And in the SEC, which we'll talk about first, there's like a tier of maybe four or five teams that I think are going to be like vying for
Mhm.
that top spot. And then the second tier is like really hard. Like there's not really a whole lot of separation, I feel like, from maybe team four to team
Well, it's not like
maybe
the
even
Big
nine or
Ten.
10.
Like I know we'll talk about the Big Ten later, but it's the Big Ten. I feel like has always been that way, right? Where you have this tier of like what
You got
seven
like your
teams, six, seven
three,
teams that are like first or
four,
second tier, and then you just have a drop off, and it's not
there
even
is a
like
big drop off
close.
in the Big Ten. The SEC just doesn't have that though. And
No.
that's why I think they can get away with the way they schedule games and why their schedule is like weighted heavier than a lot of the other conferences. But the it's actually really nice. As we've been doing these college previews, we seem to always line up with the media days that
Yeah,
happened
it's been
before.
kind of interesting actually.
It hasn't been on purpose, but it's like, okay, ACC media days happened before we did our show on that, and then the Big 12 media days happened before we did our show on that, and then SEC happened this week too, and the Big 10 I think is happening now or was
It is happening
yesterday.
now. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
happening now. Yeah.
but the SEC, yeah, the media voted, and to no surprise, the order that I think they voted in for how you think they will finish is Texas 1, Georgia 2, Alabama 3, LSU 4, I believe is how it went. But you could probably make an argument for any of those to be in any order you want, but I wouldn't disagree that those four are probably going into this season the top teams. What did you
Uh,
think of that?
yeah. I mean, I think look, Texas has the biggest to lose. I think, to be honest with you. I think if you look at all the teams, I think because all the hype behind Texas, right? They have Arch Manning, they have, and like I feel bad for Arch, truly. Like this dude has so much like pressure behind him, and I don't know if he feels it or not. We don't know that, but that's so much pressure to be like, hey, this dude is like the best quarterback in the country. I'm like, well, we haven't really seen him play, so I don't really
Yeah.
know what I got. It's like that's why I get frustrated when there a lot of teams are hounding on Ohio State. I'm like, dude, we haven't seen any of these guys play. We don't know what they're like. So for me, I think. The only team that I'm actually really sus about in a sense is Alabama truly a number one tier team? And I mean that wholeheartedly because we've seen them at times look really, really fluid. Now, maybe with the change of quarterback, maybe this changes things. I don't know. But for me, I just go, that's always like, I, they should win 9 to 10 games. But they're a team I feel that's more on the fringe. But I do agree with Texas. I do agree with Georgia. I think we said what was the other one? We said Alabama
LSU.
and LSU. Like yes, LSU as well. I think another team you could throw in there, depending on how things fly, is South Carolina. I think South Carolina is a very big underdog right now. Not underdog, under the radar, I should say. They have probably the biggest freak of all dudes at wide receiver, who's 6'5", 220 pounds and runs a freaking like 4.3. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, you have Sellers, who I think is probably the most athletic quarterback in the SEC. So, and the people that say Oklahoma's in that rank can just go and shut a door on themselves because I just think that that's just so like out
We'll
of the
talk about
wazoo.
Oklahoma.
Yeah,
I got some thoughts
yeah.
on Oklahoma
So
too.
I would say those four, yes. I think you could swap South Carolina, Alabama, and I think you could still have those same kind of rankings.
Yeah. I think with Texas, a lot of it is just we're rewarding them for what they've been building up to over the last
Yeah.
few years.
The
Like
money they've spent, yeah, the
ever
raising,
since
yeah.
Steve Sarkisian's gotten there, like the win total, I believe, has gone up every single year.
They've looked
Uh,
better like a team. They look more
they
like a
have they're
team.
recruiting really well. They're supplementing with the transfer portal when they need to. Like last year, they went out and got some of their best weapons out there. Honestly, like Matthew Golden was one of those I think that
Yeah.
they went out and got, and that ended
Well,
up
they,
being
they
a
look like Mac
really
Brown. They
good
look like
get.
Mac Brown, Texas. They're starting to look like
This
that
is the
old,
Texas of
you
old. Yeah,
know.
they're back. So, and then Arch Manning, yeah, probably the most hyped quarterback that we've ever seen. He's at the top of, I think, all the Heisman
It's like Quinn Ewers, to
odds.
be honest. It's like just like Quinn
Quinn
Ewers when
Ewers
he
was the
came over.
1.0, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just basically the same kind of vibe. It's
But not
like,
only is Arch, I think, a 1.0, but he's also got the Manning name. Like
yeah.
his uncles and his grandfather were all three stars in the league for a certain amount of time, and they all expect him to be that next guy. So I do agree with Texas being there. Georgia,
Needs
I'll
to figure
say
out
is
an
the
offense.
one.
Needs
There's
to
gonna
figure
have
out
to
an
be a lot
offense.
figured out over here. Yeah,
They have
yeah.
no offense right now.
Carson Beck has gone, and some fans might say that's a good thing or a
I
bad
don't
thing.
know, man.
But Gunnar Stockton last year, I don't think they
Did not
lost that
show
game to Notre
anything.
Dame because of him. I'm not going to blame it on him. A backup
Yeah, but
quarterback in his first
didn't
start
show
did about
much
as
though.
good as you could want, but at the same time, there wasn't, yeah, he was limited, clearly. I don't know what we'll get out of him
And
this
how
year.
come
They
they
got it.
never have receivers, by the way? How come Georgia never has
They still
receivers?
never do that. Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how this team, who recruits better than as good as any team in the country, as good as Ohio State, as good as Texas, as good as USC, as good as Oregon, they never get these top tier receivers. And I don't know if it's not a philosophy thing because they throw the ball just as much as most of these other teams. I just
They
am
throw it
shocked.
enough, and
I'm just
they always seem,
shocked.
yeah, they always seem to have a at least a good quarterback recruit come in. Like Jacob
I,
Eason was a good recruit.
they got
Jake Fromm
and they got
was.
Montgomery coming in, who's a brother of a Ohio State player. Like, I don't get how they can't get a receiver that's worth the diddly squat at a four
Yeah.
or five star.
Brock Bowers carried a lot of that load when he was there, but I think, big question is can Georgia run the football this year?
Yeah,
Because last year
yeah,
they were I think in the hundreds for rushing yards per game, and that's
which
very
is
unlike
not a
Georgia.
Georgia thing. Which is not a
That
Georgia thing.
that big offensive line that they usually have and those talented running backs that they can have there.
We've learned in this day and age you can't rely on defense anymore. Like the reason Georgia dominated a few years ago is because they had an offense that at least could sustain drives.
They had an
But if you
offense
can't
that
have an
could
offense that
score.
can't sustain drives
Hmm.
and you have a good defense, does not mean you're winning games.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, defense is it's still, I think, a solid defense. It's not like those Georgia teams of like the national championship ones that we've seen, but there's still pieces over there like KJ Bolden's going to be back at safety. We'll see what I think the bigger questions though are on the offensive side. Then moving over to Alabama, it's kind of like, okay, I think we crowned Kalen DeBoer and those guys a little too quickly last year. You and I, after the Alabama Georgia game, we were like, wow, dude, Kalen
Yeah,
DeBoer is gonna just carry this train going that Nick Saban started, and they're just, who knows, the sky's the
they're
limit over
no,
here.
no, it's not.
And then they ended up having their losses to Vanderbilt, which Nick Saban never did. They had that loss to Oklahoma at the end of the year, and you're just like, okay, I think the team is still bought in because there still wasn't, like, with the exception of guys like Caleb Downs and Julian Sayin, there wasn't a mass exodus of guys like stars that left. Jalen Milroe came back. Caden Proctor did leave, but then came back. They're still doing well on the recruiting
They got
trail.
Ryan Williams, but
Ryan Williams is still
the
there.
problem is you need a quarterback to throw it to you. That's the
Yeah.
that's the
And this
problem.
year, and this year it's looking like it's going to be Ty Simpson, who's been in the room for a little bit. He was in the race, I think, a few years ago before Jalen Milroe did beat him out. So now it's going to be his time to shine. But there is those questions of was last year just like, the torch got passed and there was, a little bump in the road right there, but DeBoer's going to bring him back this year. But LSU, I got some stronger thoughts on LSU. I think they're getting in this category because Garrett Nussmeier is a 4,000-yard passer. The only returning 4,000-yard passer, I think, in the whole country, too,
They
if
have a
I
great
read
running
that
back
right.
too. Great young running back too.
Yeah. The offense in general has not been the problem in the Brian Kelly
It's the
era.
defense.
It's the
It's been
defense, which
awful.
LSU, when we were growing up, Ben, they were a team that you could not throw the
Yep.
ball on because there were guys like Morris Claiborne
Dude,
back there, Tyrann Mathieu back there,
who
Patrick
just
Peterson back
retired, by
there.
the way.
Yeah, Derek Stingley Jr. They were
They were
far and
DBU.
away the DBU, the real DBU.
And then
And
now
they,
it's like, where's the DBs? There's
yeah,
the U. Where's the
yeah.
DBs?
And they seem to always run the football really well, but now they've gotten a lot more heavy in the pass game. Uh, I think it's just the way that Brian Kelly's philosophy is. Like he's gotten rid of a lot of like the guys that know LSU, that know the state. Uh, and so the identity has definitely shifted. It doesn't look like the LSU teams that we grew up with. They
No,
arguably are more fun when you got Jaden Daniels throwing the Brian Thomas Jr. and
but
all over the field, but they're not winning as many games as what you would expect with an offense like that because the defense is lacking.
I mean that's why I think like really South Carolina and LSU are almost the same type of team right now, with the same similar firepower, but a lot of still the same holes. I think Alabama, South Carolina, LSU, you kind of turn around at different spots, and they'd still be, I think, in the same category, at least in my opinion.
The other thing with LSU, I think Brian Kelly is 0-5 in week one since he's
That
gotten
is
there,
wild,
or he hasn't won a week one game yet
dude. That
since
is
he's gotten there.
wild.
And this year's week one game is probably the hardest one that they're going to have to deal with is
Yeah,
Clemson. They're going to be at Clemson.
and
They've had uh,
Clemson is loaded this year.
they had the USC game that's like it was right there in their grasp. They had the Florida State
Also, that was
games
like the
that
no defense game at
yeah,
USC and the LSU.
the Florida State games that they had were right there in their grasp too, and they just couldn't pull it off. But Clemson's probably gonna be the hardest
But
one.
I mean,
I
that's the thing
wonder.
about Brian Kelly, though. He can't finish things. Like I just feel like that's kind of the way he is. But
Well, this is just starting things. Like this is
yeah, I
week
know.
one. Like the team has just never looked ready week
No,
one since he's been there. So I question the level of preparedness there in the program. But that's the last one. That's like I see the vision, but there's still like the same stuff seems to be happening in LSU over and over and over again. What's going to change this
yeah,
year? That's the question I have for them coming in.
no. And I think it's starting. I mean, it's like what my old ball coach used to say. It's right. You start off fast, you finish strong. And I think LSU struggles with that. I think you look at Ohio State. I mean, they just finished strong, but they started off really not having a great overall regular season. So look, I look at the SEC and I think really right now, I think Texas has everything right now going their way to just put a stamp on this conference. But I think there's some teams in that second tier that are going to make some of these first teams, I think, maybe swap places, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with like Texas, the offense will have some questions,
The defense
but
could be good.
the
Defense is
defense
going to
could
be
be good.
good.
Yeah, you got like Anthony Hill Jr. back
That
there,
that
and
game versus Ohio State, by the way, might be like a 10-7 game. Like there's a good chance it could be like a 10-7 game
it could.
between those two defenses.
A lot of people too forgot about CJ Baxter. He was the number one running back in his
Yeah.
class. He'll be back fully healthy at Texas too. Uh, yeah, going on to the second tier though, it's just like there's a lot of teams here, and we'll start with South Carolina since you mentioned them. A team that finished hot last year. They had
Hot.
some bad luck early on, some injuries that held them back a little bit, but uh, depending on how things go this year, I think the schedule plays a little bit more to their favor this year. They start off with Virginia Tech on their home field. Then, as far as the conference goes, they got Vanderbilt, Missouri, Kentucky, LSU, and Oklahoma, and Alabama and Ole Miss. All four in a row are going to be
Ooh.
tough. Possibly a fifth tough one with Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And then you finish the year, of course, with with Clemson. But like we said before, there's a lot of good teams in this second tier. They can't all take that next step forward. I think that South Carolina could be one of those that comes up here. And Dylan Stewart might be the best pass rusher in the country. He's gonna be back on this defense too.
And they got neighbors who, not neighbors. The guy I was talking about earlier, he's 6'5", 220. And also Lenore Sellers, by the way, he's like 6'4", 240. The dude's a
Yeah,
man,
Lenore
and he runs
Sellers
like
is a
he
big
runs
guy
like a
too.
4'4". Like the
Hmm.
dude's a freak. Um, he's a better version of Richardson from Florida. Sorry, I'm just being honest. I just think the one thing I'm worried about, I just spoke highly about Lenore Sellers, but the one thing we've noticed with him is he's got a can of an arm. But again, like Richardson from Florida, that's now with the Colts, is that he struggles with like this mid to probably like short to mid passing. It just seems like that's sometimes misses for him. I think defensively in the SEC, like the biggest thing you can do in the SEC is just contain the team. Like they're going to beat you at times, but containing the best you can. I think that's what I think Georgia's done great is like, hey, you might beat us, for 8-9 yards, but you're never going to beat us for 40 yards. And I think if South Carolina can do that against some of the big teams, you're going to drop one or two games. I think you can see them go 10-2, 9-3. But if they do struggle offensively, I think that's when you're going to see them go 8-4, maybe 7-5, if that's the way that kind of falls.
Yeah. And like I said, kind of like middle of the season schedule, that could be a real
That
grind if
October,
they
that October is always a
October,
killer.
baby.
That's
as
oh,
they
it's a
say
killer.
down there. Yeah. Yeah, but they could have a really good start. Hopefully the health can all be there and they can be one of those teams that can take that next step, maybe actually get into the playoff this year. Um, so let's talk about Oklahoma. That's one of those other teams that ever since Brent Venables has gotten there, it's been really up and down.
Yeah.
They thought that last year, after I think they were coming off a 10-win season, things were going to get even better because you had Jackson Arnold come in who won the Elite 11. Doesn't really work out at quarterback over there for him. Uh, and he ends up transferring and goes to Auburn, which we'll talk about Auburn eventually. But the hype around Oklahoma this year, really a lot of good, big things being said about John Mateer. And they got Arbuckle, his offensive coordinator, also from Washington State, coming in. Uh, and I mean, this is a guy that people are saying isn't just going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, but possibly in the country too. That could really elevate Oklahoma's offense and get them to where they thought they could be last year. I think that there's still a lot of questions about this kid, at least on my end, because I'm like, okay, it still was Washington State, although we saw Cam Ward dominate Washington State, come over to Miami last year and didn't even lose a beat. So maybe there's something to be said about the way that Washington State's playing offensive football over there. But even still with this Oklahoma team, they've had a tough start to the SEC as far as the schedule goes, and this year again's no exception. They got Michigan week 2, they got Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, and LSU. They're one of those teams where it's like even if they hit their ceiling this year, a 9-3, I would be really happy about if I was them, just looking at the schedule right now. But
Mhm.
I also see if things don't go very well again, or if Mateer ends up just being an average quarterback, potential to go 6-6 here, and that's I think Venable's third 6-win season. And at that point, if you're Oklahoma fan base, I'd be starting to lose patience.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard a lot of people say from Crane and Company to I've heard from other analysts as well, and other even Young who's an Oklahoma fan said, if Venables struggles this year to let's say win even 7 games, like I think you're gonna see his name possibly on the chopping block. I don't know if that means he'll obviously be fired, but just the seat will be very, very, very hot. But I do think John Mateer to me he might be the best quarterback in the SC. Now, the only reason I think a lot of people are hesitant to say that is because he played in the Pac-2, didn't really have a ton of competition when it came to the teams he played. But I think the way he runs the ball, like people forget how good of a runner he is. He's got a great arm, good accuracy. I think he can create that atmosphere that they had with Kyler Murray, with Jalen Hurts, with some of these other quarterbacks they had with Baker Mayfield. Um, but I think they had to figure out the defense. They had to figure out offense, dude. Their offense was so bad last year. Like I watched one game like on highlights and I was just like,
Hmm.
is this even like an FBS team offensively? Like this is so awful to watch. And it's the SEC, which is like, are you Vanderbilt? So for me, I think Oklahoma is a second tier team. It just depends how do they fix the things that need to be fixed. That's the biggest issue.
Yeah. Just reading through some of Mateer's games last year against some of their, I guess, higher competition. Texas Tech is 9-19 for 115 yards, a touchdown, a pick. Washington, 17 to 34, 245 yards, a touchdown, a pick. Boise State, 26 to 37, 327 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. His best overall game probably came against it was New Mexico. So take that for what it's worth. 375 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks in that game. But I think the offense is riding a lot of Mateer. Venables started getting involved more with the defense last year, and you could see the change there. Oklahoma is really good defensively, which we never saw in the Lincoln Riley era. It's why they were able to beat teams last year like Alabama and Tennessee, honestly, because
Yeah.
offense wasn't showing up in those games. But yeah, Oklahoma, I think it could be a make or break year for Venables. That is, like I said, a schedule that could be tough, especially if Mateer ends up being just the average quarterback in this conference. But that's Oklahoma. Why don't we talk about my Florida Gators next, Ben? Because I think this is the most optimistic the fan base has been in the Billy Napier era coming into this year. And I'll explain why.
Look how happy Josh is right now.
Look at how happy I am. I actually have a smile on my
He's
face when I talk
smiling.
about the 2025 Florida Gators, not the 2006 or the 2008 Florida Gators. So DJ Lagway, Ben, did not lose a game that he started and finished last year. And I say that because the Georgia game they were right there in it, but he got hurt in that one, as you remember.
Yep.
And Georgia eventually was able to limp across the finish line and get that win over there. But they had some of those big wins last year at the end, like over Ole Miss, that honestly saved Napier's job. I think they finished 7-5 last year. You got some solid options coming back for Legway to throw to, like Eugene Wilson. The offensive line also is going to be pretty strong this year. The schedule also is not as brutal as what it has been in the past. We've talked about
Dude.
before,
Oh,
like, gosh, like even if this Florida team was good, like 3 or 4 wins might be all they get because it's just like bam, bam, bam every single week. But looking at it this year, it's like, yeah, you got at LSU, you got at Miami, you got Texas, Texas A&M, Georgia, and then Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State. Like those teams might not be as good this year. Like it still is like I said, it's a grind in this conference all the time, and not all those teams can take that next step forward. But if I'm Florida, I'm feeling good about the situation we're going into right now.
yeah. I mean, look, Florida has always been that, like, they have talent. It just seems like something happens between September and December, and it's like it just they drink something or something because it just seems to fizzle a lot. Um, and look, but I will say this, Josh, if they don't win a lot of games this year, I
Yeah,
there's going to be a
like the
change
fan
happening.
base, the fan base I think has been patient with Billy, but again, it's like that Venables thing where it's like Venables at least has had them in 10-win territory. We still haven't gotten there yet. Like this
Yeah.
year is supposed to be the year that they, I would say, push for like that 9 or 10 win season.
Yeah. So I mean, I think if you don't get these wins this year, I think there's a good chance they say adios. That's I mean, I know that sounds crazy for Florida fans, but it's like, dude, you given this guy enough time, I feel like, to sense where he's been,
He's been there as
right?
long as Venables has,
Yeah.
and as long as Brian Kelly has LSU.
They've almost been too patient, I think, in Oklahoma at times with Venables. It's like, dude,
Maybe.
this is not normal Oklahoma. But I think look, what I like about Lagway, what I like about this offense is that you have probably one of the best running backs, by the way. I think very underrated, one of the best running backs in the country, and a guy who's 220 pounds and can freaking run over people. And I think you have Lagway, who I think is a very good quarterback when he gets protection, when he gets guys that will catch the ball. And plus, you play at one of the most intimidating places to play in all of college
The
football in the
swamp is
swamp.
hard. I think so. With this,
So
especially
you
with the
add all
heat in
that.
August and September. Yeah.
So you add all that. I think the only thing is like we haven't seen Florida win big games consistently or really win the games in a very long time. So I'm interested to see if if they do make it the playoff, do they even compete, right? So I think you have a lot of those things that you have to kind of see as the time goes on.
Yeah. I mean, if you get to the playoff if you're Florida, I think that's an incredible season and enough to get Billy at least another year or two over there. I'd be ecstatic if they were in the playoffs.
And then playing Ohio State in Columbus and getting their butts handed to them.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's been a while since we've even sniffed that kind of territory, so I'll take what we can get. Uh, this is another team. I'm not sure if I would put them in the second tier because I think they have incredible fall off potential. And that'd be Tennessee.
Mm,
So my thing with Tennessee,
their
Josh
quarterback.
Heupel always seems to get so much out of this offense because of how good his scheme is. Like made guys like Hendon Hooker, who are backup quarterbacks at Virginia Tech, borderline Heisman finalists. If he didn't get hurt that season, I think he's at least on the podium. Joe Milton, a guy that was like super athletically gifted, but never really was able to put it all together, was able to win 8 or 9 games with him. Then you get Nico last year, who's supposed to have the most talent out of all of them. They won 10 games and made the playoffs, I think, in spite of his abilities last year a handful of times. And also has had great running backs come through, like Dylan Sampson. They always seem they got a 1,000 yard rusher. But just with all the drama this offseason, they really don't have a plan at quarterback. I mean, they went out and got a guy, but even still, it's going off plan, and they had to really change gears. The offensive line, I know that they went out and got that one really big freshman kid is
Yeah, he almost went to Ohio
David
State.
Sanders.
Yeah.
David Sanders, yeah. He'll be over there, but I know that that offensive line was a concern and also part of the reason why Nico's dad thought he should have been getting more money because it's like you're not protecting my kid, he's having to do a lot more, like those kind of things. So inexperienced quarterback that they had to like really go out and get that hasn't really been in the system. Offensive line that I think still has questions. You at least got some pieces like Jermon McCoy in the building that are going to be fun to watch. Ricky Gibson the third. So the roster will have some nice pieces on it, but I think Tennessee. Uh, I don't know. I think that out of all the teams we've talked about so far, they would be the one that I'd expect to take a step back. And even taking a step back though, in Tennessee, I think that Heupel can get them at least 7 wins still. But I would not be expecting to be back in the playoff. I think that if you're a Tennessee fan, you're like, we've been working to get to this point. We made the playoffs last year. All right, now the next step is to win a playoff game. And I'm just kind of over here like, you might have like a little bump in the road year right now where it's like, let's just do what we can and then try to reload in the offseason and get back at it next year. But to me, I'm kind of thinking that this might be like 7-5, 8-4 territory, and that'd be what I would call a good year for the Volunteers.
No, I agree with you too. I think 7-5, 8-4. I mean, like Aguilar, the guy they brought in from App State, he was a very solid quarterback for App State in the South, but in the what was that, the SBC conference. So, um, you know, with him, like you can, I think, do, but you have limited, like you're kind of limited, or I think the ceiling of what the season can be because he's a senior. So, but again, I look at Tennessee and I go like, was last year the ceiling for this Tennessee program, at least for now? Like, is the ceiling getting to the first round of the playoff, and then that's kind of where you see yourself? Um,
Hmm.
because I think last year's team was very good, but now, like, what are you going to do at running back? What are you going to do at quarterback? What are you going to do on the offensive line? What are you
Yeah.
going to do at defense? Like, there's so many more questions that it seems like whenever they've been asked, no one really knows how to answer it. So for me, I see this team like, I mean, 6-6 might not even be that crazy if you think about it. So, Tennessee's got to figure it out because if they lose a lot of games this year, you're going to start seeing recruiting start shuffling. Does David Sanders say, okay, well, if we're not going to win games, I'm out, right? So there's a lot of these things that you have to kind of figure out.
Yeah. And I mean, with Aguilar and whoever they end up having at the running back position, like I said before, Heupel's always seemed to get the most out of these guys. Like,
Yeah,
I'm sure everybody was asking the same questions about Hendon Hooker. Like, what are we going to be able to do with this guy? I mean, he's been average. He's gotten some starts at Virginia Tech, and then he ends up being a Heisman candidate. Same with Milton. We see him in the COVID year, launch 90-yard bombs or whatever, but he's
yeah,
never really accurate. And Michigan only won, I think, 2 games that season, and he ended up getting benched. They're like, shoot, what are we going to be able to do with this guy? So I think even with Aguilar over there, uh, obviously the ceiling's going to be a little lower than what it would be with a more talented quarterback. But I think Heupel uh, does good enough in his system that his players are going to be put in positions to succeed, and they will get more out of this season than what they might at like another program.
yeah.
If someone else was coaching here, I think they'd have a lot harder of a time. But I really believe in Heupel's system. So the one thing I'll say out of all the schedules we've been talking about so far, I think Tennessee's is a little easier. And by
It is
easier, I
easier.
mean
Yeah,
they only have to host Georgia, go to Alabama, host Oklahoma, go to Florida. And I mean, that's about all the challenges that they'll have this year. So that's why I say like 8-4, I'd be like, heck yeah, man.
yeah.
But yeah, Tennessee is one of those that I would expect to take a step back. Um, let's see.
Because
Uh,
and again, we're not gonna go. We'll probably say that there's a lot of these teams, like the low teams in the SEC, we probably won't go through because
yeah,
they're just bad. So just so you know, if you're a fan of that team, I'm sorry.
yeah. One of those other ones that I would expect to take a step back is Ole Miss. They've been building up, it seems like, to a window, which was last year, and they really
And
didn't
they did
realize
not
that
do
window
well.
either. Like getting all these guys to come through, like Juice Wells at receiver and Jackson Dart ended up being a really good quarterback. And the transfer portal, I mean, we talked about Florida State. They built a monster over there with their portal guys and ended up falling off the rails ultimately because they weren't recruiting well enough internally. And Ole Miss has kind of been on that blueprint too. Like Lane Kiffin, all the credit in the world. He's done so well here. He's gotten them like their first 10-win season, I believe, or their first 11-win season it was. They're like for Ole Miss standards, they've done really well. But last year was supposed to be that season where it's like, okay, we're gonna be a top five team, and we're gonna actually
Yeah,
compete for a championship. And they didn't even make the 12-team playoff field. So this year, a lot of those guys are gone. They're going to be moving on. There's going to be a lot of new faces in the building, and I wouldn't expect them to necessarily fall off the rails like Florida State did, but I also would be calibrating my expectations. Like, okay, we might have a little bit more of a struggle this year than what we'd like, but that's kind of how I see Ole Miss coming in this year. They're probably going to be one of those teams that ends up maybe more around like that 7 to 8 win range. But what are you thinking of Ole Miss? What do you see from the Rebels?
No, I think Old Miss is like, look, it's similar to what I said about Florida in the sense I feel like Old Miss is like always like, well, not always, but they never seem to get like the big win. Like they get the wins they need to. They might have a big win maybe over a Tennessee or something like that where they get a solid win. When it comes to like actually progressing to the next level, I feel like Old Miss is always a step not there, if that makes sense. So look, Jackson Dart, you had your opportunity last year. Now, like, what are you going to do? Like, what's your identity? Like, I don't think we know what Old Miss's identity is. Is it throwing the ball? Is it running the ball? Is it playing great defense? Is it out coaching the team next to you? Because to me, it seems like Old Miss loves to talk about how everyone else spends money on the portal, and yet they go out and get guys, and yet they can't succeed. But yet Ohio State only gets 6 dudes, but you get 25 dudes in the portal, and then how come Ohio State won a national title? How did Michigan win a national title? How did Texas do better than you in the SEC, right? Does that make sense? Like, I feel like
Sure.
there's a lot of talk and chatter from them, and there's not a lot of on field progress that I think can back up to what they say. And I think you need to first figure out who's your identity, go win some games, and then start doing the whole, hey, this is who we are, if that makes sense. So
Sure.
that's where I feel like they are. And I feel like they're still a little bit of ways of like, until they can get a consistent thing where like, hey, let's go ahead and recruit 30 dudes and maybe get 10 guys in the portal rather than let's just do the portal because there's one thing that's been proven, going all in on the portal has not necessarily won you a championship so far. And so I think you have to find a balance, you have to strike a balance, and I think that's what they need to figure out. And I think on field, who's the quarterback going to be? Like what I mean by that is like who are you going to be with that quarterback? Who are you going to be with the run game, with the pass game and everything else between?
Yeah. Like Tennessee, though, the schedule does shake up to their favor, I'll say. They really don't have a hard game until week 4 when they host Tulane. They get to host LSU. They got to go to Georgia and Oklahoma, but they get to host South Carolina and they get to host Florida. So we'll see what they can do with that. But they'd be one of those teams I'd be like probably taking a step back. The one team, though, that I really, I guess, don't know what to expect. I know what history would say they would do, but Texas A&M, Ben. Uh, the Mike Elko era took off last year. Uh, Maybe not as well as what he would have liked, but Marcel Reed is a returning quarterback in this conference, which not a lot of teams do have. With Mike Elko, the way he was able to coach at Duke, and he's been in this program before. Really good defensive mind, really good defensive coordinator. He's going to be a little bit more involved in the defense this year too. Uh, and even in the Jimbo Fisher era, Texas A&M's defense wasn't bad. It was figuring out that offense. And I think the Ags identity offensively this year is going to be in the run game, and Marcel Reed's going to be involved in that. Really athletically gifted over there. Uh, there is some tough games on the schedule, I'll say, but I really don't know what to expect from Texas A&M. I don't know if I would lean towards yes, they're going to take that next step forward, or if they're going to be one of those teams, like I said, in this second tier that's going to uh, just not be good enough, honestly, quite frankly, and be more towards like that 500, 6-6 range.
Yeah, I mean, like, look with Texas
This
A&M,
is Texas A&M. Just gonna go ahead and say that's the biggest question mark to me in this conference. If they end
no,
up
I
winning nine
agree.
games, wouldn't shock me. If they ended up winning 5 games, it probably wouldn't shock me.
Look, Texas A&M has always been that way, though, haven't they?
They always
They've
had the
always been
high
that way.
expectations, man, and they've tricked me a couple of those times. Most of the time, I'm pretty level-headed. I'm like, it's Texas A&M, it's Jimbo Fisher, but I think Mike Elko can do a little bit different. I'm not going to necessarily
Oh, I'm just
hold
going to
him
straight up say it.
accountable
They're
for
they're gonna
Jimbo's
go.
mistakes, but
They're gonna
A&M's
go.
just always been that team, man. Where it's like they got all the resources and they never can seem to put a product on the field that does well.
Dude, they're gonna be 7-5 or 8-4. Like I've stopped trying to believe that Texas A&M is gonna be a team that goes 11-1 and wins the SEC. Like I will never see the day. I don't think where I see Texas A&M know how to use the money. I feel like they're becoming the New York Yankees of college football, where it's like, hey, we have all the money we want to
Let's
spend.
go with the New York Mets.
Okay, let's go New York Mets. Less
Because with the
successful.
exception of this season,
Yeah,
maybe last year, they have always spent a lot of
yeah.
money, but
So
have missed a lot of
yeah,
playoffs.
so New York Mets is what I'm going to say with this. Is like you have all the resources you want, you have all the money, you have all the talent you can have, and you don't know what to do with it. And Elko even at times last year, I look at him like, what are you doing with this team? And so For me, offensively, they got to figure it out because defense, I think he'll figure that out because that's kind of the way his mind works. But offensively, they got to figure themselves out. They got to use the talent they have, and hopefully, you can counter some of this craziness of the SEC and slip in some wins.
Yeah, they do have Notre Dame out of conference. They will host Auburn. They will host Florida. They go to LSU. They go to Missouri. They host South Carolina. They got to go to Texas at the end of the year. So it's definitely got its games on it.
I agree.
Um, the last team that I felt like discussing today was two. I'll start with Auburn. They're one of those teams that's like I wonder how much more patient they will be with Hugh Freeze because I think they won 6 games that first year, 5 games that second year. They've done well in recruiting. They got some guys on the roster like Cam Coleman that should shake up to be one of the better receivers in the conference. We'll find out if Jackson Arnold just was in a bad system last year, if he can get all of his talent realized under Hugh Freeze's offense. He is does usually do pretty well with quarterbacks, but the Auburn fan base, I hear the Cranes talk about them
They always sound
a
so
lot.
so not positive half the time.
They do. They
They
really were
sound
out on.
so.
Yeah, they seem willing to let Hugh go on. I know like going out and hiring Hugh Freeze was something Jake preached forever. He's like, they'll never do it, but it's absolutely what they should do. And now they've done it. But this is year 3 for Hugh Freeze. You definitely can't go backwards again where it's like 6 wins, 5 wins, 4 wins. But just as far as like Auburn, it's like they seem to have the tools to do it. They've been in some games before. Like they've given Georgia a hard time. They've given they've won some hard games, I think, near the end of the season, but it's just one of those situations again where it's like we need some consistency.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I love the Cranes because they just dude they're so not like they're not even positive about the season. Like just I mean I know they are in a sense, but they're just like, all right, if we lose 8 games, we lose 8 games. Like it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
and I love how David just like pokes the bear with Auburn. Like he just always asks these questions to people that come on, and they're like, really, really, this is where you're going? Because I think he had the question about something with Hugh Freeze's like recruiting story or something like that. And then both Jake and Blaine were like, seriously, seriously, David, right now. So
Hmm.
to me, with Auburn, I think Auburn is a team that is just like Texas A&M. That every year we always say Auburn is there, they have a chance.
But see, Auburn has that ceiling capability. They've won a national
I know,
championship, Ben, in our lifetime.
I know, but
They got that
also,
capability to do that. They've played in another one that they lost to Florida State. Like you can do really well at Auburn.
but I just think that they look, and also this is the time for Auburn. Alabama's down. They're not the same as they were with Nick Saban.
That is
You
true.
have Georgia who can't figure out offensively what to do. All you have is Texas to compete with. Right now, like if I look at it from a point blank range, and you have the opportunity to have the greatest run in Auburn football, and yet you can't figure it out. And that's what just it drives me nuts. And I think look, Jackson Arnold, I think is going to have a good year this year. I think he's going to have a solid year. I think you're going to have the defense. I think is going to turn around a little bit this year. I think they're going to have a better year. I think running the ball is still going to be an issue. I think at times for them. I see this team winning 6, 7 games. I think 7 games is probably the top notch for this team for this year.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like I don't really know what I'm going to get from Auburn. When you read the schedule, you think that it's pretty favorable, but again, that's if you're talking about a team like Tennessee or Ole Miss that we've seen do it more recently. But the hard ones are they got to go to Baylor, they got to go to Oklahoma, they got to go to Texas A&M, they get to host Georgia, they host Missouri, uh, and then they host Alabama at the end of the year in the Iron Bowl. But if this was a team like one of those, I'd be like, yeah, I think a good season would be 8 wins, but I just don't know if the talent on the roster is necessarily capable of doing that. I'm gonna have to learn a lot from Auburn football this year, but the schedule I think does play their favor. I also like your point about some of the other powers that they've been right there in the thick of it with. Like we all
Yeah.
know about the Iron Bowl game against Alabama a couple years ago where Jalen Milroe threw the touchdown, I think, an over or the 2 point conversion. I think it was. And it's just like, man, Auburn was that close, man. Like they've had those moments where it's like they've held Georgia, I think, to like under 80 or rushing yards or something like that in a game and almost got him. Like they've had those moments where it's like small wins, but not necessarily in the win column. I gotta see them eventually take that step. But
Yeah,
the
I
last
agree.
team in this conference that I think is worth talking a little bit about is Missouri, and that's because they've largely been, I guess, a beneficiary of the old division format, being in the weaker SEC East. Uh, they had a nice run there with Brady Cook and Schroeder at running back.
Yeah.
Name escapes me. I think they're gonna it's gonna be a different look this year. They got Bo Prabula at quarterback, and I think that's going to be ultimately where this team goes. It's once again a schedule that's just like how I don't know how it shakes up this way, but even still, they got South Carolina and Alabama on their home field. They go to Auburn. They get to host Texas A&M. They go to Oklahoma, and that's like the extent of their hard games.
Well, you gotta love Missouri. They always get the easy schedule, it seems like.
Even outside, like in the combined conference now, it's still just like, man, I don't know
And
how
yet,
the
and yet, yet your Florida Gators can never
my
get a
Florida
break.
Gators never get a break. Yeah, but I thought Brady Cook and Schrader were good. I think Drinkwitz has done well for himself at Missouri. I'm not sure how many other coaches would be capable of winning over there, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's
Missouri's a
gonna. I
hard
think
play. Missouri's a hard place to win. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. So I think just Bo Prabula being over there, we'll find out how good he is. That's obviously the transfer from Penn State, but I think they'll probably go as far as he can go. Although watching Missouri last year, they had some of those games where it's like, man, they're winning a little too closely, and then when they would play the competition like Alabama, they got thumped. So if that's the case again this year, there's games where it's like, yeah, Alabama could thump them again this year. South Carolina could thump them this year. Texas A&M could thump them this year. But we'll see how good Bo
You know,
is.
I think that's the thing that I think it's going to keep them back, to be honest with you. I think that's the thing that might keep them shy of winning those 8, 9 games. Because I think, look, he didn't, I know he said he never want to leave Penn State, but he wasn't really that good at Penn State, personally. So that's where I struggle with, but that's my opinion. Um, but yeah, Missouri wise, I think they're a 7-win team, I think, around there. I think.
Then just kind of rounding up the rest of the conference, it's like we got Vanderbilt here that we didn't talk about, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Arkansas, anything about any of those teams. I know like Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia's back, and he's talking about he came back to win a national championship or something like that, which of
Yeah, good
course
luck. Okay. Yeah,
that's
fun.
the right thing to say, but it's going to
Yeah,
be a
good
meme
luck.
every time they
Good
lose.
luck.
Yeah. Mississippi State, Jeff Lebby,
They're so bad.
still trying to
So
figure
bad.
out some stuff over there. It is bad. It's hard
They're
to win
so
there.
bad.
Kentucky, Mark Stoops is still there, right?
Sorry. Yep. Bad. Still
It's like
bad.
yeah, still bad. I know. I think no, that was someone else. Never mind. But yeah, does really well for himself at Kentucky. I don't think he'll ever be on a hot seat, but it still is very hard to win over there. They're kind of like that a team that's got to build up to a
They're
window
like the they're
program.
like the they're like the Illinois the SEC. Like just hard to win, but it's a
Illinois,
place
the
that
SEC. I like that
yeah,
comparison.
because it's a team that you can never get fired from because like no one really wants to go and coach
No
there
one wants to go and
necessarily.
coach there. No one can do better
So
than what you're doing right
so you're
now.
doing fine.
Yeah.
So you're basically the Illinois of the SEC is basically what you are.
Might have the most job security out of everyone in the conference.
Yeah. Or even Mississippi State. I mean, to be honest, Mississippi State, they'll keep their same coach for 12 years and you'll win like 4 games a year and you're fine.
Maybe. And then Arkansas, I don't really know.
They're just going to be bad.
I don't
I
really
think they're
know
just
a
going to
lot
be, they're
about
just
their
gonna be bad.
roster. I know that
They have a
Sam
really good
Pittman
quarterback.
is
That's
still
about
over
it.
there.
They have a good quarterback. That's about it.
They
They
are
also have a
excited about the
30-year-old.
quarterback
They
they
have
got
a
in the building.
30-year-old sophomore, a guy who used to play in the majors like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I
So,
did see that too.
so there you
But
go.
man, yeah. Well, that's the SEC. It should be a fun conference. There could be a lot of shuffling around. That second tier is what I think is going to be the most interesting. But I would be outside of maybe a couple of those teams we discussed. I think the top four that we think are clear cut probably will fall that way. It's just a matter of will we have that team that can far and away be the clear cut best team? Because last year they did not have that. And at least on paper this year, it still doesn't look like they have that.
Yeah.
So without further ado, the AFC West,
Hmm.
another division, like I said, where it's like it seems like it could be anybody's division. Kansas City's or not won, been to five of the last six Super Bowls. They've been winning this division over and over and over again. And we have been brave enough to pick against them before with the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson, but that obviously did not
That didn't
happen.
work.
This year, I think I'm finally brave enough to, I've licked my wounds, I've learned from my mistakes, and I'm going to make the same mistake again, I think. And I'm feeling a Denver Broncos division win this year, Ben.
You know what's funny, Josh, is that I 100% agree with you. I'm not kidding you.
Not
I
kidding.
thought about this because I thought about this last night when I was remembering what we were talking about today because I was completely forgot as the flights. And I remembered I was like, oh, AFC West. One is I can never pick Jim Harbaugh. I'm sorry. I can't pick a team that is coached by him. It doesn't matter how good they are. And also, I feel like the Chiefs have gotten comfortable winning the division. And I know that sounds crazy in the NFL, but I think it does happen from time to time. And I like where the Broncos are going. Like Sean Payton has this team, like they're young. They got rid of a lot of the old dudes that were kind of like holding down the roster. I think you got a lot of young, vibrant stars that I think are going to really make this team kick. Thank you for Jerry Jeudy, by the way. We'll appreciate that for the Cleveland Browns if you really wanted to make that trade. Cool. Um, I think with the one thing that's always going to hold the Chargers back is that they still try to be run first with a quarterback that can throw for 5,000 yards. I don't really know if they know their identity. And I feel like the Chiefs, dude, they're getting old. And Josh, we know this in the NFL. As soon as your team starts hitting this age peak, you start seeing a downward play. And I'm not saying they're going to be bad, but I do think there's a chance that you see the Broncos go maybe, 12 and 5, 13 and 4, and you see the Chiefs go 12 and 5, 11 and 6. And I think the Chargers will be right after that. And then well, we don't even talk about Las Vegas because I think they're going to win maybe like 5 games tops. So that's just my cut
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, so that's like a really nice, I guess, 10,000 foot view, and we'll zero in on some of these teams. But I'll say what I like about Denver this year. Bo Nix surprised, I think, a lot of us last year. I think he ended up with
Yeah,
about 30 total touchdowns. It was a guy that I was just like, there's no way he should have been first round pick. That's going to be like such a mistake. And comes out and has an incredible rookie season with Sean Payton. Uh, they got, like you said, some exciting young pieces. I think Marvin Mims is going to take another step forward here. They fixed the running back room with J.K. Dobbins. They really didn't run the football
yeah.
last year. Well, if Dobbins can stay healthy, that ends up being a solid signing. The defense has its strengths too, and they only got better there, I think, going out and getting Dre Greenlaw to come in at linebacker. But another thing last year that will have to change, and I think does change this year, is I think they lost most of their games last year by one score. It was like five or
Yeah,
six one
they
score
did. They
losses, and
did.
it's
Yeah.
like, man, just a couple different bounces of the ball, and their record looks totally different this year. And there's probably some moments last year that Bo had where he was a rookie, and he'll learn from those, and I think he does. Uh, Sean Payton seemed to do really well with him, and I think Denver will take that next step forward. Uh, Coming out here, I'll just say a couple of the I guess parts of the schedule that could be tough. So starting week 3, they got at the Chargers, then they get to host the Bengals, then they go to Philly. Uh, Another stretch that could be interesting is later on host Dallas, go to Houston. Then you got a game where you get to host the Raiders, then you got to host the Chiefs, then you got to go to
Mm.
Washington. Uh, then at the end of the year, they again got their division games with the Chargers, the Chiefs that close the season, and then they also got one with Green Bay in there. So we'll see how they shake up. But I think Denver got better in the offseason after a really solid rookie campaign from Bo last year, and I think they're built to take that next step forward.
Yeah, I agree. Everything you said, I agree. I mean, I look, Sean Payton, he's a whisperer when it comes to successful teams, and I think with the Broncos, I think they were just a few pieces here and there away from really turning that season around. I mean, that season into something really, really good. And I think they're in its chance where the AFC might be down a little bit, not down, but like it's a little more open to see who can take the reins. And I think, look, the Chiefs are probably going to prove both of us wrong, and I'm just going to say that now. But hey, it's nice to talk good about a team that
Yeah,
could do that. So
I'll talk big and bad behind my computer screen with my keyboard. But yeah, why not talk about Kansas City? They were on the other side of those one score games, and they were winning a lot of one score games last year, Ben. And with a team
they
like,
got blessed with the nice lottery pick. Feels like nice lottery selection when I mean with wins, I should say.
yeah, they were winning all these one score games, and I was like, they can't keep getting away with this. And In the Super Bowl, they did not. That 40-22 final score is closer than what that game would indicate when you're just watching it. Like Philly's defense, and I think a lot of teams are going to watch that tape and be like, man, they might have come up with the game plan to stop Patrick Mahomes. I
Yeah.
don't know. Uh, at least some of the social media analysts that I remember watching last year were pointing out some things where it's like, look at this, look at that, and how Philly responded. Like
Mhm.
Patrick Mahomes is still good enough that he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in this league. And I think the other thing that you got to remember, we're still waiting to see what Rashee Rice's availability is going to look like. But reinstated, I think there's going to be a pending suspension. We'll see how long it ends up being. If his lawyers can figure out when he can serve his jail time and stuff, I'm assuming it won't be during the season. But having him back will help the offense out. Uh, But like you said, there is some aging coming on. The way they lost Super Bowl last year, it could be like that point where it's like, okay, this is where the Chiefs dynasty ends up on the downtrend.
Yeah.
But we said that over and over again about Tom Brady. We'll find out if that ends up being the case with this team. If Mahomes and Andy Reid can pull themselves up like Bill Belichick and Tom Brady did, where it's like, yeah, everything's against us. It doesn't look really good. The roster doesn't look as good as it does, but we still got the best quarterback in the league, so we're gonna be fine. Uh, we do get to see them rematch the Eagles week 2 this year. So that'll be a game. They get to host Baltimore. They get to host Detroit. They get to host the Commanders. They go to Buffalo. They go to Dallas. They get to host Houston. But yeah, as you can hear from all that, they get to host a lot of their, I guess, hard games this year.
Mhm.
So Arrowhead, excuse me, Arrowhead we know is very loud. It's one of those definitely home field advantage stadiums, I think. So that might lean Kansas City's way a little bit, but I would expect, or it wouldn't shock me if they fall second. I do really like Denver's chances, and that's why I'm going at least that way with these teams.
No, yeah, I think that's why I have Broncos one. I think that's why I have Chiefs second. I think you brought up a good point that when you in the NFL, home field advantage is big. I think it's best. It's especially big when the weather gets colder and you got a cold environment, but also
Hmm.
you have a quarterback that's won a Super Bowl, multiple Super Bowls, right? You have players that have been there, done that. But I also like what you pointed out with the Eagles, and they had something up their sleeve for Mahomes. I think you're gonna see a lot of teams do similar schemes in order to get to him. But yeah, they have one of the best coaches of all time. So again, you can't count them out. I see them finishing second for sure, maybe even first.
Yeah. So that takes to the Chargers, who, to no surprise, last year took on a Jim Harbaugh Michigan style identity. Like you said, they got a quarterback that can throw 5,000 yards, and they decided to become defense and run first. And Herbert actually threw for only 3,800 yards. I think that might be the lowest of his career, and it wasn't
Yeah,
necessarily because of a fall off in talent. It was just,
they
yeah,
didn't throw the ball.
they didn't throw much. Well, he did only throw 3,100 year before that, but that was because of some injuries
Yeah,
also. But yeah, the kid can sling it, but they decided, no, we're going to be run first. And they probably are going to continue to run the ball this year. They went out and drafted O'Marion Hampton from North Carolina. They got, I believe yes, they went out and got Najee Harris
yeah,
in free agency. The wide receivers also going to be a question, and
yeah.
I wouldn't want to.
Also the videos of Williams dropping the ball right now in training
Quentin
camp is
Johnston,
hilarious. Yeah, Quentin Johnson. Sorry, him
yeah,
just
I saw
dropping the
some of
ball.
those. Yeah, Lad McConkey, typical white receiver, that was about as much as I would be excited about. They drafted Keandre Lambert Smith too. We'll see how involved he gets, but Jalen Rager's also on this roster, and I mean that guy has been historically a bust. And Mike Williams, who they did sign in the offseason, ended up retiring recently.
Yeah,
So there's another weapon that's not going to be there. And then as far as defense goes, I know Joey Bosa is not here anymore, but I'm not expecting them to take any steps
no,
back
I don't either.
as far as that goes. They're going to be, I think, fine on defense as far as personnel, overall personnel, and coaching over there. But yeah, it's just I don't know what the offensive identity will look like. The Chargers defense last year was really good. It was one of the best as far as points allowed. Actually, this whole deep division was really good defensively. I think they had 3 of the top 5 as far as points allowed goes. But the Chargers, that's something that we talked about a lot last year was the defense, the offensive identity. I mean, we know what it is. We know they want to run the ball, but it's just like eventually you got to let Herbert loose, I
Yeah,
think, a little bit more this year. And that would be what I would say could be the difference from the Chargers maybe finishing higher than third. I do think highly enough of Denver and Kansas City still, but if the Chargers, for whatever reason, are finishing first in this division for some crazy reason, I think it's because they let Herbert sling it a little bit more this year.
Yeah, I think they got to sling it, but the problem is you got to have guys that can catch it, and I think that's going to be the
That's
thing that holds them
that's
back.
also it's like okay, Herbert could have maybe 10 more attempts a game, but are they
Yeah.
going to have the guys that can catch?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think you're going to see that. I think you'll also see them maybe make a move before the season starts to get a receiver. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I can't trust them offensively enough to keep up the pace to really be a top two team in this division. So for me, I just see them at the three spot, and I think that's where they're going to stay because I again Harbaugh loves to run the ball, but like we're getting to the point now where when you have a quarterback, it's good. Like if it was like if the Browns were this way and they had the quarterback situation the Browns have, and they had a running back situation and O line the way the Chargers have, it'd be like yeah, run the ball. But you have one of the best quarterbacks who can sling it, so why don't you let him sling it,
Yeah.
right? But then you have to go out and get receivers. So I think that's going to be the process we see.
The other thing, I'll just go ahead and say the start of their schedule right here because I think it opens up at least the potential for a good start. And I say that after they open up with Kansas City week one, but then they go to the Raiders, they host the Broncos, they go to the Giants, they host the Commanders, but then they go to the Dolphins, they host the Colts, they host the Vikings, they go to the Titans, they host the Steelers, they go to the Jags, they host the Raiders, and then they got games at the end of the year with the Eagles, with the Chiefs, Dallas, Houston, Denver. That's a
Yeah,
really hard finish, but at least the first like 10 to 12 area right there, it wouldn't shock me if they were maybe a little higher in the division, but they're going to have a hard end of the year right there, and that might be what actually drops them down to third.
yeah, I agree. I agree.
So we got to talk about Vegas, and they're the team that I don't think anybody's giving any love to, even with a revamped offense with Geno Smith coming in at quarterback, who's not a superstar by any means, but good enough, a guy that you can count on that's a veteran. Pete Carroll's also coming in as a head coach, and he's won a lot in this league. Brock Bowers is coming off a really solid rookie season. You extended Max Crosby. You're hoping that Christian Wilkins can come back fully healthy. But again, just oh, and you drafted Ashton Genty. So you got a solid room of running backs with him and Raheem Mostert and Zamir White. But it's just one of those things where it's like I think there were some holes last year, and I don't know if you can correct them all in a year. But we'll see what Chip Kelly can do with this offense. I think it has the potential to be fun to watch at times, but still maybe like a year or two out from competing for real in this division.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm jealous Chip Kelly's still not with Ohio State, but no, I think Ashton Genty, I mean, they say that, this guy, he's going to win Rookie of the Year. I'm like, yeah, he might have to because they might run the ball like 7,000 times. So he might just
Mhm.
get it because of I mean, there's a chance I see him running for like 1,800 yards because they can't throw it. Um, so for me, I think, what do you do offensively, but what do you do defensively? Like we've heard all this hype about all these guys they've drafted over the last few years. You have Crosby, but like we heard all these Wilson they drafted and all these other guys, and it just feels like where are they? Like, and I just feel like this defense is like missing a few pieces. I think the offense is missing a few pieces. Like I Pete Carroll, bless you because you took on this role, but I mean they had the backing of ownership that I think is willing to go out and spend to figure out things, but it's like what do they do to bring in these guys and who can convince them?
Yeah, I like the defensive line. Like I said, it's just gonna have to stay healthy. Like Malcolm Kuntz was coming off 8 sacks in 2023, then missed the whole 2024 season. We know what Max Crosby can do. We just talked about that. Christian Wilkins was a nice piece that they added a little while ago, but only 11 tackles and 2 sacks last year, also because of some health, only played in 5 games. So that defensive line at its full strength is really fun. I'm gonna have to see a little bit more from like those back guys for that defense to take a step forward, I think. But and we're also obviously going to need the defensive line to stay healthy. But yeah, the Raiders, I think they did all that they could do this offseason. It's just like I said, it's a hard division, and it's probably going to take a little bit to get the team into a spot it can compete.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's the hardest part is that dude, you got to face these three teams in that division. It's like what I feel like the Bengals. Oh, I know we'll talk about the Bengals, but I think that the Bengals are going to be in a similar spot and the Browns. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But hey, look, that's what makes football so fun, right, Josh? That's what
Right.
makes it fun.
Yeah.
That was making it fun. But um, Yeah, that was exciting. SEC, always fun to talk about. Always fun to talk about, the different conferences in football.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we're going to be continuing our football preview next week as well, and as we get closer to the season, which by the way is just crazy that's going to be here before we know it. Drop down below. The question I want you guys to answer today is drop down below. Do you feel like the SEC, which team in the SEC do you feel like is going to be up this year, and which SEC team do you feel like is going to be down this year? You've heard Josh and I. We've kind of said our 2 cents. We'll be interested to hear your 2 cents as well. And also, if you've really enjoyed listening and watching us talk in my new background with baskets, yeah, I know, amazing background.
Mhm.
But if you love watching us, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And also, if you love listening, share it with your friends and family from Spotify. And, maybe Josh can figure out how many baskets are actually in this background before the next episode. We'll have to see. But I hope you guys have an amazing week. Stay cool because it is so hot right now. I hate this humidity in Ohio. I hate it.
Mhm.
But I hope you guys enjoy your week. Until next time, we'll see ya.